In this video, I'm going to be giving you a jaded, miserable git, far too critical to be an influencer look at the new Assetto Corsa Competizione update, which brought with it the entirety of the Nordschleifer, as well as some physics tweaks and updates. In this video, I'm going to be helping those of you that are on the fence with Assetto Corsa Competizione to decide if you might like it now, and also help those of you that already have ACC to make your mind up whether or not you should get this new DLC or not. The views in this video will probably be highly traumatic to many people that can't deal with any critical thought, which is most sim racers these days, and as a result, you probably don't want to subscribe, you probably won't want to click the like button, and in fact you should probably just go to other channels that only say positive things. With that glorious introduction out of the way, let's spam through the positives. And the biggest positive with this new DLC is that, as usual and always with Kunos stuff, it's a really fantastic price. You can get the track for £10, and even the previous GT2 DLC is only like £12. Everything for ACC, including the game, is super affordable and really does make a mockery of prices that you'd find in other simulators like iRacing or even Race Room and things. Like ACC's absolutely cracking value considering the amount of work that clearly goes into all the content that you can find in the simulator. Mind you, AC1 is basically free and better, but put that to one side. If you like ACC, the pricing of it is absolutely superb. Also, the track model that you get with this Nordschleifer, I think, is probably one of the most detailed versions of the Nordschleifer that you can drive virtually. The side track details, the tree placement, the crowds, the curbing, the road texture details, the raw fidelity of everything, all of it is absolutely really superbly executed. A track the size of the Nordschleifer is a 3D modeler's nightmare. The people that worked on this track probably are still dreaming about placing assets and texturing curbing to make it line up to whatever their reference imagery was. I wouldn't want to model this track. I feel bad for anybody that has had to model it through the years, and especially bad for the people that modelled it for ACC. It is an absolutely superb model of the Nordschleifer. Now, in terms of performance of the track, it is a little bit heavier than other tracks in this simulator, especially when you start putting lots of cars on it. But I will say, I found the frame rate and frame timing a lot more consistent with ACC Nordschleifer than iRacing Nordschleifer. I have to turn the graphics right down in iRacing to make sure I get a very consistent frame rate. ACC doesn't run as well as AC1. Obviously, it has more advanced shaders and lighting in many ways. I do think the ACC version of the Nordschleifer is the most detailed. Personally, I'm not a fan of Unreal Engine. Obviously, it's terrible in virtual reality. The AA is really bad. There's a whole bunch of underlying graphical issues with Unreal Engine. But if you can put those graphical issues and Unreal rubbish to one side, it is probably the most detailed version of the Nordschleifer. In terms of 3D model, nor in Unreal technical stupidity, the 3D model I think is the best version of the Nordschleifer. So I really don't think you can knock this track model. For £10 it's absolutely insane value for money. I would pay £50 if this track model was in iRacing or was in AC1. It's really that good. It's, you know, it's crazy that it's just £10 for the model in and of itself, given how much work it takes to make tracks like this. Unfortunately, in terms of single player and AI racing, there are times where the AI just crumbles for no reason at all, and then you end up with a random jam or a huge pile up. Obviously, it's a hard track, and in real life there's jams and huge pile-ups out of the blue, but they happen within 1 or 2 laps. And the more cars that you put on this, the more often that happens. Also, the short version of the Nürburgring, the left-hander, pretty much always is a complete traffic jam with the AI just getting really confused. Eventually, the AI clears itself up, but yeah, if you start at the back or further back, it's not going to end up being particularly realistic with the AI in terms of how things pan out. Once you're on a few laps in and things are spread out a bit, the AI is a bit better. But yeah, it's not really an ideal situation for those of you that want to race offline, a sort of serious offline race, and are really depending on the AI to work flawlessly. They really don't, but that's just how it is. Now, I would say as well, obviously with this being such a big track, and then the temptation is to put a lot of cars on it. That is like one of the allures, like the sort of Nürburgring 24 Hours of Nordschleife race events. When you start putting lots of cars, as I say, frame rate is also going to be quite a big issue. And I found with Unreal Engine and with ACC, you can get like a good frame rate, but then once you pass a threshold that topples that frame rate, like too much shadow detail or one or two too many cars, and then you just end up with stutter city and madness happening. So it's just something to be aware of. If you've got a lower spec system, it's quite demanding. I mean, ACC's always been very demanding. I imagine most people are pretty familiar with ACC and how it is and how to get the most out of it by now. So you really can't knock the quality of the track model. Absolutely superb, fantastic job by Kunos. Now, onto the physics and the handling, and well, this track magnifies the aspects of ACC's physics, as you would expect the Nordschleife to do so. That's the point of the track, and that's why I love it. It's you know, it's a proper pure racetrack. It's amazing. If you're a fan of ACC and you've got used to its physics, then this update you'll probably really quite enjoy. I think some of the bumps on the track, even for ACC fans, fanboys, fangirls, and how the cars respond to some of the bumps, will probably even be off-putting to a lot of ACC fans until they memorise exactly what they can and can't do. And also, I'm sure people will just make setups that negate some of the weird stuff that happens from this track, being the way that it is. If you are like me and you really don't enjoy ACC's dull, tank-like, sloppy, delayed physics and lack of dynamic range in its force feedback at the limit, then this doesn't change any of that. It's still basically exactly the same as it's always been. Kunos over the years have done adjustments. They have changed things. Some ways you could argue slightly more positively. But at its core, it fundamentally has the issues that ACC's always had. That's not to say that you can't enjoy it still. It's quite a good racing sim. I think if you're on LFM, for example, the online racing will be really quite nice. In many ways, much better than iRacing. The physics and handling in ACC are much more forgiving in many ways than iRacing. So when you go over the limit and you slide, the grip comes back quicker. In ACC and iRacing, the tyres will just stay over the limit. But you know, if you've actually been in a real fast car and you really like balancing a car at the limit and being able to feel exactly what the car's doing all the time, all through the slip curve of the tyre, you just don't get that from ACC. And as I say, there's this weird disconnect delay in ACC. Before fanboys say, oh, it's my equipment, I spent £1,000 on a AccuForce wheel to isolate force feedback from the simulator. I own 6 DD wheels. I've used the SRO eSports sim rigs. I've set up sim rigs for sim centers, and I've used ACC fanboys simulators, and so probably like 30-40 different simulators. No, ACC's really messed up. Some people apparently just can't notice it. That's not to say, again, you can still enjoy it, you can get used to it. iRacing's really messed up. AC1's curbing is really messed up. All these sims are messed up in various different ways. Unfortunately, iRacing's tyre model's completely messed up at the limit, which is one of the most important parts of where tyre model needs to work. And unfortunately, ACC has these weird, like, baked-in passenger slides that occur and completely lacks dynamic range in its force feedback, which are very important if you're someone that likes to actually drive by the feel of the vehicle and make little adjustments based off what the vehicle's telling you. And to me, that is what makes driving compelling. If you just like going faster and learning a video game and whatever, you can ignore that. You'll have a good time, whatever you're playing. But, you know, I mean, I'm tired of explaining it. The people that get it, get it. People that don't get it never will. So, yeah, from my perspective, this update, really nice track model. We drove the GT2 cars a bit as well, and they were actually quite fun in many ways. They were a lot sort of more slidey, but still quite controllable. I mean, everything's really controllable in ACC. I play a lot of iRacing recently with the Super Formula and other cars. ACC is so much easier to drive than iRacing in many, many ways. Not in all ways, but yeah, at the end of the day, guys, let's just be honest here. If you take this track model and you put it into the first Assetto Corsa, the real pasta, not the burnt pasta, ACC's like putting a pasta in a pizza oven. It just doesn't make sense. So if you put this in the real pasta, you would get better force feedback, much more realistic handling, though I do actually quite like how pokey the tyres are in ACC. If you actually had the force feedback to accompany that and you got rid of the passenger slides and the input delay and God knows what else is going on with Unreal, but you would have better force feedback, more naturally handling vehicles. You would have also faulty curbing, put that to one side. You would have better sound, especially from mods. This is controversial, I know, but trust me, ACC sound is actually terrible. It'll give you a headache after a while. Oh dear, that's hate comments. It's too controversial, that view. You would have better VR performance. You'd be able to drive pretty much any car you can imagine on the track. You could drive even the RSS GT3 cars, which are miles better than the ACC ones. Not maybe in terms of the onboard systems and certain details, but the end resulting drive is just much more realistic. So, you know, who knows? Maybe this track model could find itself in the original Assetto Corsa. That has happened before. If it does, well, that'd be really good for the consumer. I'm not endorsing. That's probably some form of copyright infringement. And I would say, if you did ever get this track in another sim, make sure to buy the DLC to support the work that's gone into this absolutely superb track model. But yeah, that's the state of things from a jaded, miserable git sim racer. I know what I say is really traumatic, and I realise what you really want from influencers is constant positivity about how great everything in sim racing is and everything's game changing in a positive way. I'm sorry. It's not. I don't know what to say. Like, you guys want to be manipulated by influencers, a lot of you. Some of you don't. And those of you that don't, and also probably have issues like I do, well, you can subscribe to this channel and wallow in your misery and despair almost as efficiently as turning on BBC Parliament or just watching the news. You don't need those. You don't need a TV licence for this channel. You can just put it on and you'll be like, oh, it's that British guy whinging about stuff nobody cares about. Again, what's wrong with him? So, yeah, there you have it. Yet another fantastic piece of online content produced by Gamer Muscle Videos. If you got this far in the video, the comments should be that air fryers are game-changing. That's the comment. Appreciate that. And I don't know if I'm going to play this DLC anymore. I did a few hours of it and I was just like, great track, yeah. I think, and if I did LFM, this would be really good for endurance races. So maybe might do some of that potentially. I don't know if I can be bothered. Like, I would just rather drive it in AC, and you know, that's fine, isn't it? There's lots of options. If you like this, you can keep doing it. If you have hands that can't detect missing force feedback, you can really enjoy this. Good for you. I'm happy for you. I wish my hands didn't function either. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drink very strong tea. Till the next one, take care and goodbye.